Hello everyone and welcome back to another video on the channel, and today we're talking about Bong Joon Ho's follow-up to his Oscar-winning film Parasite with Mickey 17, starring Robert Pattinson, Mark Ruffalo, Naomi, Ackie, Toni, Collette, and Yeun. There are honestly two sides of the spectrum when it comes to Bong Joon Ho's filmography. On one hand, you have films like Memories of Murder, which have a very dark and serious tone to it, and on the other, you have films like Okja, which are incredibly bizarre, zany, and just flat out weird. Then you have films like Parasite and Snowpiercer, where he finds a nice middle ground between the serious and the zany that struck a chord with so many people. And so when the first trailers dropped for Mickey 17 and Robert Pattinson's insane accent was revealed and the strange visuals of the alien creatures were shown and the absolutely insane TV spots with the Hey Mickey song playing in the background dropped, I knew we were getting something a bit more on the Okja end of that spectrum, which I think is a necessary expectation to have going into this film. And yeah, this film is as weird as Okja was.
What's it feel like to die? I really hate dying.
And so, of course, I will be talking about spoilers for Mickey 17. So if you're on the fence about seeing this movie, I would recommend it, especially if you're down for something really, truly unique and original in theaters right now. And if you have seen the film, let's just jump right into it. So what is Mickey 17 about? Well, it follows Mickey Barnes, played by Robert Pattinson, who has decided to sign up to become an expendable crew member on a colonization mission to a new planet. Throughout the first act of this film, you learn exactly what an expendable is, along with the more complicated moral implications of this really intriguing sci-fi concept. If you are an expendable, your job is essentially to die over and over and over again for the benefit of the crew aboard this mission. His many deaths feature him being sent out into space so the science team can study the effects of radiation in this new solar system. He is sent out onto this new planet to see if there are any dangerous viruses that could threaten the colony. He is given experimental drugs and food to see if he would die from any of the unknown effects they have on humans. He is left to be eaten by the alien creatures living on this planet, and in one case he even survived, but they dump him into the incinerator anyway. And after each of his deaths, he is reprinted and is thrown right back into his dangerous job. This concept creates a darkly fun sandbox for Bong Joon Ho to play in with this world that he's created. One of my favorite parts of this film was learning how all this works and the world building you get from the idea of expendables. Why would somebody sign up to do this? What are the legal implications of beginning a program like this? What are the ethical concerns? What are the ways that it can be exploited? And most importantly, what happens if duplication occurs and the previous version does not die beforehand? And all of these questions had very interesting answers to them. Mickey signs up for the program because of a macaron business gone wrong, in part because of his buddy played by Yeun, and through this somehow they end up getting tied to a mob boss that wants them both dead. Is this fully explained? Not really, but it does introduce the classic class disparity themes that Bong Joon Ho loves to implement within his films. In the very least, it sets up the idea that only those who are truly desperate and maybe a little bit dumb will end up signing up for this program.
You're applying to be an expendable?
Yeah.
You read through the whole application.
Ain't that a kick in the head?
Yeah, I should have read through it.
The legal implications of this program is where we get a deeper dive into the moral questions surrounding expendables. Once the technology of cloning was invented, of course somebody found a way to exploit the system by cloning themselves in order to commit serial murders while having their clone be an alibi to exonerate them from any charges. This widened the perception that those who have been cloned are an abomination, that duplicates are illegal, and all copies should be executed immediately upon found. The technology of cloning was made illegal on Earth, so the only place you can get away with using it is now in space. So then you have an eccentric failed politician in Marshall, played by Mark Ruffalo, who uses his populist influence and his resources to launch a colonization mission, which will use this tech to take advantage of somebody like Mickey in order to create a pure civilization in his eyes. And with this technology being incredibly divisive, of course those like Marshall are going to see expendables as less than because of their religious and elitist views. Yes, it's a lot to dig into. I love the moral questions the film asks about whether or not each individual Mickey clone has a soul of their own. There's a line Mickey has in his voiceover that says NASHA, who is Mickey's love interest throughout the story, senses slight differences each time Mickey dies and a new one is printed out. And we very much see this difference between Mickey 17 and 18 once they become duplicates. There's one shot that tilts between Mickey 17 and 18 as they react to a drug deal that proved that Pattinson was doing so much as a performer to differentiate these two. You knew exactly which Mickey you were watching on screen every single time they cut from one to the other, which never ceased to impress me. There's also really strange ethical questions when it comes to Mickey and NASHA's relationship once Mickey becomes a duplicate and he becomes jealous that Mickey 18 is with her and that he is not, or when all three of them get in bed together and NASHA is extremely down for that when Mickey 17 doesn't feel the same about it. He's clearly uncomfortable, or even the very brief subplot about another woman wanting Mickey for herself and suggests that NASHA and her should take one Mickey for themselves and they can kind of essentially share him. I can honestly go on and on about the many questions I got while watching this film when it comes to this duplication concept and the relationships within it, and I think the film does a decent job job balancing all these many ideas that it has when it comes to the duplication and the cloning, although it does become very clear after the first half of the story that most of these ideas and questions are going to be left for the audience to stir on, while the story itself goes in a different direction. The main crux of this story is the political satire. The inciting incident of the story is when Mickey 17 falls into the ravine and is assumed to be killed by the creepers that natively live on the planet that they are beginning to colonize. But to the surprise and the naivete of Mickey, the creepers actually save him rather than eat him. It is largely a story of a colonizer in Marshall who has a lot of real-world counterparts. One is clearly for Trump when it comes to the red hats and his populist political standings. I also got a good amount of Elon Musk in Ruffalo's performance, mainly because I think Elon in real life would actually try to do this exact same thing if he were to get a chance to colonize Mars, and also a dash of Hitler with the purity of the new human race that is better than anyone who is different from them. But let's be real, all three of these real-world counterparts are one and the same, and so if you mash them all together, you then get Kenneth Marshall. Because this guy is so incredibly egotistical and bloodthirsty, he immediately sees these creepers as enemies and things that need to be eliminated in order for his perfect colony to thrive, despite the scientists around him literally telling him that he's wrong. Does that sound familiar? Well, yeah. And when one of the baby creepers is captured and another is killed, the creepers that inhabit this planet surround the ship, threatening to end the entire colony. As a metaphor for colonization in general, it's pretty straightforward, but the tone that is captured from Bong Joon Ho's direction, of course, makes this as weird as possible. I think that some will probably walk out of this movie being a bit annoyed that the film went in the direction that it goes in. Yes, I did find the ethical ideas of cloning to be much more interesting. I was definitely having a lot of fun with the darker humor when it comes to Mickey going from, Mickey 1 all the way up to Mickey 17, but if you're looking for something purely about someone dying over and over and over again, there are plenty of Groundhog Day-esque films that would do it for you. Or if you want an ethical debate about cloning, Moon is a great example of a film like that. But this film is much more interested in being a unique amalgamation of all those tones and ideas that make it a truly original, large-budget sci-fi romp from Bong Joon Ho, which I'm totally fine with. I honestly really did enjoy this bombastic third act. I enjoyed the large-scale threat of death or bluff that the creepers had for the colony. I enjoyed the race to save the baby from falling into the lava pit. I enjoyed Mickey 18 going off to ride along with the creepers to attack Marshall and sacrifice himself for the survival of the colony, despite knowing that he won't be reprinted after his death. The ending is big and bombastic and weird, and I enjoyed every second of it. And, to go back to the performances, it's definitely more in the vein of the kind of performances that I remember seeing in Okja. This is especially the case when it comes to Mark Ruffalo. It has become clear between this film and Poor Things that he's an actor that is willing to give the most outlandish and bizarre performance that I think many actors would honestly turn down. He is so insane with his line delivery, and the veneers he wears throughout this film just adds to the strange and unsettling nature of this character. And the majority of the supporting cast also have outlandish performances to match the tone of this movie. Naomi Ackie is really good as Pattinson's love interest, but is also kind of insane, especially in the scenes with both Mickey's, and her willingness to just go with the flow and try to bang both of them at the same time. Really wasn't expecting that from this character when she was first set up. But I also do love her role in this film as a soldier willing to stand up against Marshall or Steven Yeun, or really anybody that threatens her or Mickey. She is such a ride or die. Steven Yeun is another one of those actors where I'll actively seek out anything that he's in. He's great in the more dramatic roles like in The Walking Dead or Minari, but I would compare his performance in this more akin to his performance in Beef, which at times is just as unhinged as he is in this. Toni Collette was also an odd one for me in this movie. She is obviously great in everything, but she, along with the entire cast, is clearly having so much fun eating up the scenery every time that she's on screen. I honestly don't really fully understand her obsession with making different sauces, so if you know what that means, please leave it in the comment section down below. But whatever it was, I enjoyed the oddities of that character. The only character I didn't really care for was Kai Katz, who was the other woman wanting to get with Mickey. I got that she was kind of the opposite of NASHA in terms of her being a Marshall supporter who would probably take advantage of Mickey, but there were also times where I saw NASHA as almost antagonistic while Kai was being a little more kind to Mickey, but the movie never really does anything with that, and she has absolutely no emotions in killing the baby creeper in the very next scene, so I'm not entirely sure what her role here was supposed to be by the ending of the film. If anything, it simply muddied the dynamic between Mickey and NASHA, which I liked until she also started to be a little bit weird, but then she began acting normal again by the end of the film, so there's just a lot of back and forth that I had between these two characters. There's also this one really weird scene towards the end of the film where everything seems to be all said and done and they're about to destroy the cloning machine, but all of a sudden it cuts to Mickey showing up by the cloning machine and seeing that Toni Collette is there, and she's saying something about the sauces again, which I still don't really understand the sauce thing, but she starts to print out Mark Ruffalo's character again, and he's being being revived once again, and I was very curious to see like what in the world you guys think that scene means, because obviously I don't think that was real. That was definitely a dream sequence, but is that just a representation that somebody like this, dictator of sorts, this, martial character is always going to come back in some way or another, because we kind of do see that in our real world? Is he worried that that's going to happen in the future of this planet? Maybe it's like almost a cynical take on what the future could be in terms of this, or maybe it's just a really random weird dream sequence. But I'm sure there's a lot more to this scene that just, you'd immediately think of just by watching it at first. It felt jarring at first, but I feel like it's the one scene in this movie that has left me thinking a little bit more than others, especially at the ending of this film. But overall, in a very strange way, this movie feels like what Megalopolis tried to be for Francis Ford Coppola, but in Mickey 17's case, it actually succeeds for Bong Joon Ho. It's trying to blend a lot of different tones with political satire as the backdrop. It is set in a sci-fi future that oddly feels reminiscent to our current time, with social commentary scattered throughout, and it features absolutely insane performances that maybe go a little bit too far, but for me at least, I never found this movie to be pretentious or demeaning. It was just a really fun time with more subtext than your average big budget sci-fi movie, even if it is a bit too in your face at times.
He's alive. I'm fine. See you tomorrow.
But those are just going to be my thoughts on Mickey 17. I did really enjoy it, but when it comes to Bong Joon Ho's filmography, I'm definitely more of a fan of his, like films like Memories of Murder or Parasite or Snowpiercer. I think the Okja and Mickey 17 side of his filmography is a little bit too weird for me at times, but I did definitely like this more than Okja. If anything, this movie made me want to go back and give Okja another try, because that's one of the first reviews that I ever had here on the channel, and I remember people just telling me that I didn't get that movie, so maybe it's time for me to revisit that one as well. But like I said, leave your thoughts in the comment section down below, and of course, if you did enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel to see more reviews just like this one. I just reviewed Captain America a couple weeks ago along with The Monkey, which I have a great story to tell about The Monkey when it comes to me watching it 6 months early for a test screening. So a lot of great stuff in that video as well, along with all the future videos that I'll have reviewing movies here on this channel in the future. So thanks everybody for watching, and I hope to see you all in my next one.